Hello, and welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about the American serial killer Billy Mansfield. If I pronounce any names wrong, I do apologize. William Mansfield Jr. was born in 1956 in Grand Rapids, Michigan, the eldest in a family of 5 children. His father, William Sr., was a convicted child molester who had served sentences in both Michigan and Nevada, who often encouraged fights between his sons. Despite this, the younger Mansfield claimed that he had a good upbringing and got along with his family. But that changed when he was 14, when he dropped out of school and altered his birth certificate so he could serve in the army. While serving, he became an alcoholic. Not long after this, he also began experimenting with various drugs. As a result of his addiction, he was sent for treatment at a Veterans Administration hospital in Tampa in 1978 and 1980. In 1975, he married Phyllis Spillmaker and had 2 children with her, but they divorced in 1979. His ex-wife deciding to stay in Grand Rapids with the kids. According to Spillmaker, Billy, a closeted bisexual, often brought men from gay bars home and had sex with them in front of her, and one time discussed a murder with her. She described him as easygoing but very violent when drunk. On New Year's Eve in 1975, a 15-year-old girl from Parkman, Ohio, Elaine Lewis Ziegler, went missing from a KOA campground near Brooksville. She was on vacation with her family and was last seen going to the camp showers. By the next day, Elaine still had not returned, and her parents reported her missing. Search parties organized by the local police department and volunteers were spread out to search the area in order to find Ziegler, who at the time was thought to be a runaway. Several people claimed that they had seen a girl matching her description riding a motorbike, and when asked where she was going, the girl claimed to be returning to her home state of Ohio. On the other hand, there was also reported sighting Elaine talking to a man in his 20s near the shower area, and later boarding his car, a light blue 1966 Ford Fairlane with Florida license plates. After staying an additional week to aid in the search for their daughter, realizing that nothing could be done, the Chalkers returned to their home in Parkman without Elaine. On January 31st, 1977, Billy pleaded guilty to a sexual misconduct charge against a babysitter in Grand Rapids, receiving 6 months imprisonment and 36 months probation. Not long after leaving jail, he assaulted 2 teenagers in a rural area of the city and was sent back to prison for violating the conditions of his parole. There he shared a cell with 27-year-old Albert Lee III, whom confided to Mansfield that he had murdered an 11-year-old girl named Linda Vanderveen. Using this information, Billy testified against Lee in exchange for a lesser sentence and was released from jail after a year. On June 19, 1980, he forced 18-year-old Pamela Sherrill into his van and drove to a rented trailer where he proceeded to hit her, cutting her lip and bruising her neck. Sherrill reported the incident to the police, but when they went to arrest him, he was not there. On November 23rd, he was arrested in Santa Cruz, but posted bail and was set free again. On December 7, 1980, the half-naked body of 29-year-old Renee Saling was found at a drainage ditch at the side of the Buena Vista Road in Watsonville, California, by passing motorists. A mother of 3, Renee had been last seen by her husband Raymond the previous day. Her clothes had been torn apart and her blouse and pants lowered to her ankles. The coroner ruled the cause of death as strangulation. 4 days later, Billy and his 23-year-old brother Gary were arrested by a rookie police officer at Winnemucca, Nevada, for questioning in Saling's murder. The 2 men lied about their identities and ages, but the officer noticed that their physical description matched the Mansfield brothers and took them into custody at the Humboldt County Jail. On December 16th, the 2 brothers were arraigned at a Watsonville court on murder charges concerning Saling's death. They were dubbed the Bag Brothers by the media, due to the fact that they wore paper bags over their heads to protect the testimonies of any potential witnesses. The Mansfield pleaded guilty to the murder charges and were ordered to stand trial for Saling's murder by Justice John Marlowe on February 14, 1981. In March 1981, Hernando County Sheriff's Department obtained a search warrant to evacuate the Mansfield family property in Spring Hill based on information provided by an informant who claimed that there was a body underneath the property. The authorities searched and dug through the area until they located a skull and bones in a shallow grave covered with a blanket. Unsure if the bones were Ziegler's, they were sent for examination, where pathologist Dr. William Whitman concluded that they belonged to a female under 20 years of age. Despite the search warrant naming only Ziegler, authorities suspecting that there could possibly be more bodies continued with the evacuations. Additional officers from Tampa and metal detecting experts also aided in the evacuations. The located body was tentatively identified as that of missing Ziegler. Based on the skeleton's characteristics, skull and missing tooth, jewelry was also located, but the chalkers didn't recognize it as belonging to Elaine. Over the following weeks, there were continuous evacuations with varying success, with the investigators initially uncovering bones from the chickens and cows. On March 24th, a small sack of human bones was found underneath the fireplace. Encouraged by this discovery, investigators continued digging and plowing the water pipes and electrical wiring installed over the bodies. Eventually, 3 more skeletons were unearthed, and belonging to women they determined to be the following: Jane Doe, found buried under a concrete slab in the family workshop, described as a young white teenage girl with possible African American heritage. She was initially thought to be less than 13 years old. Jane Doe, described as a white female aged 22 to 30, it was speculated that she might have been 21-year-old Melinda Harder, who had gone missing from St. Petersburg on July 27, 1980, but this was ruled out when Harder's remains were identified in 2008. Sandra Jean Graham, 21, a Tampa native and employee of the Hillsborough Community College. Graham was last seen at the parking lot of Pam's Liquor Lounge on April 27, 1980, accompanied by a man described as a biker. She had left her cigarettes, car keys, and eyeglasses at the bar. Her decomposed body was recovered from a wooded homestead and positively identified through the forensic dentist. The skulls of the 2 Jane Does were later sent to reconstruction at the Colorado State University, with the task headed by retired anthropology professor Dr. Michael Charnay. No positive matches were made, and the victims remain unidentified. Mansfield was also briefly considered a suspect in the murders of 19-year-old Cynthia Clements, 19-year-old Elizabeth Margaret Graham, and 18-year-old Carol Ann Barrett, all of whom were killed in a similar manner and sexually assaulted. James Delano Winkles would later be convicted of the Graham homicide and remains a suspect in the Clements murder. No suspect has been identified in the Barrett killing. Following the arrest of his brother, Gary Mansfield, for drug charges on October 27, 2020, more remains had been located at the family home in Spring Hill, Florida. Following the discoveries of the skeletons, it was decided that the trial be moved to San Rafael in order to avoid a publicity bias against Mansfield. At trial, his previous escapades with the law and alleged sightings on the night of Saling's death were recalled. Despite this, the jury were deadlocked, and a new trial was ordered. At the request of Assistant State Attorney Chip Harp, the trial was granted a 6-month stay. On October 27, 1981, aided by 22-year-old fellow inmate Ben Berringen, Billy unchained himself while at the recreation yard and climbed up a roof where, together with Berringen, jumped to the ground and fled. However, they were spotted by a woman whom initially ignored them, thinking they were joggers in orange tracksuits, before eventually notifying police. Patrols and sniffer dogs were quickly dispatched and the surrounding area searched. At about 11:45 p.m., a man reported 2 suspicious men running by his house, and the policemen investigated the area, finding 2 sets of footprints leading up the river. After 11 hours of searching, a tired and disheveled Mansfield was arrested without incident at Paradise Park, hiding in some bushes and still wearing his prison uniform. About half an hour after, Berrigan was arrested at Lighthouse Point after being spotted by a citizen. Both prisoners were successfully returned to jail and their captors praised in the media. While in the Santa Cruz County Jail, a Hernando County judge indicted Mansfield for the murder of one of the 4 victims found buried underneath his property. In addition, he was charged with attempted sexual battery in the Sherrill case. The new trial was scheduled by February 8, 1982, with Billy's brother Gary and woman known as Cindy agreeing to testify against him. After a 2-week-long trial, Billy Mansfield was convicted of Renee Saling's murder and sent back to prison to await his sentencing. He was later handed a 25-year-to-life sentence. Concerning the Florida homicides, after initially claiming to be innocent, Mansfield pleaded guilty to all 4 and was given 4 life terms as part of a plea bargain. In a prepared statement, he said the following, quote, "I am pleading guilty because I am guilty of the charges and I have no other reason," unquote. Not long after his sentencing, several inmates at the Hernando County Prison, among them serial killer Robert Dell Henderson, attempted to break out, but were thwarted by the authorities. During the escape attempt, Mansfield was offered freedom but declined. He was later moved to the California Health Care Facility in Stockton. Mansfield has been denied parole 4 times since his first hearing in 1996. His last hearing was held in 2012. He is next eligible for parole hearing in 2022. Thank you for listening. If you like this type of content, please consider subscribing and liking my channel, and I will see you on the next one.